Iraq fires Scuds at Saudi Arabia. Some hit, but most are destroyed by American Patriot missiles.
This is NBC Nightly News with Tom Brokaw. Tonight, America at war.
Good evening. Now the war has come to Saudi Arabia. Saddam Hussein and Iraq continue to take a terrible pounding from the air in Operation Desert Storm, but he has not buckled. Tonight he launched Scud missile attacks against Riyadh, the capital of Saudi Arabia, and the military complex at Dhahran. He also broadcast what he said were interviews with American prisoners of war. We have NBC's Mike Betcher in Saudi Arabia tonight, Fred Francis at the Pentagon. Mike, let's begin with you in Saudi Arabia.
Well, Tom, just a few minutes ago we had a third alarm, but there were no outgoing Patriot missiles and no incoming Scud missiles, so the all clear was sounded. Despite the coalition's efforts to try to find those mobile missiles, American commanders believed they had not been able to track all of them down and destroy them. And this evening, they were proven correct. Another night of terror in Dhahran. Another night of sure shooting by an American Patriot missile battery. More nervous hours spent in a bomb shelter.
And another Patriot is going off. Another Patriot is taking off, going on at a very low...
NBC News correspondent Arthur Kent was about to broadcast a routine live report when the alarm was sounded. 5 Patriot missiles were fired at incoming Iraqi missiles. 3 hit their mark, according to military sources. The missiles exploded in mid-flight near an installation of the giant Saudi oil concern Aramco. Thousands of Americans and other foreign nationals live in the complex and witness the attack.
This man has brought grief to a lot of people. You know, this kind of psychological terror is as bad as anything I've ever experienced.
I saw four missiles, pum, 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 4 times. Then they shut down.
Later, a second Iraqi missile was aimed at 2 Saudi cities, Dhahran and the Saudi capital of Riyadh. Once again, Patriot missiles were fired to intercept them. But the American-led coalition was giving back more than it was getting. American planes relentlessly bombed positions held by Iraqi artillery spotters on the Kuwaiti-Saudi Arabian border. And the U.S. battleship Wisconsin, along with other U.S. ships, continued launching their cruise missiles towards Iraq. This war had evolved into a battle of missiles. To review the attacks this evening, the first attack was launched here at Dhahran. There were 3 Scud missiles destroyed. The second attack was launched to Dhahran and also to Riyadh. We have no numbers, official numbers, on the number of Patriot missiles fired or the number of incoming missiles. There are reports that there were impacts in Riyadh, but there is no official confirmation. We do not know for sure, Tom.
NBC's Mike Betcher in Saudi Arabia, thank you very much. By and large, U.S. military commanders running Operation Desert Storm are confident that this military campaign is going their way so far, even with these latest missiles attacks. But they continue to warn against euphoria. NBC's Fred Francis at the Pentagon now. Fred?
Tom, on this extraordinary day of Saddam's missiles, they rattled a few nerves, but only the weather aggravated the Allied pilots in the air war. The air bombardment over Iraq and Kuwait reached more than 7,000 air sorties in just 4 days. That despite very bad cloud cover for attacking bombers. But as the U.S. stepped up the strikes on Iraq, news came from Baghdad that American airmen shot down were being paraded as prisoners of war. Pentagon sources say at least 5 and possibly 7 Americans have been captured. The general running the war, Norman Schwarzkopf, appeared on the major networks today and confirmed Americans had been taken. Schwarzkopf also said that most of Iraq's facilities for mass destruction had been severely damaged.
I have very high confidence that those nuclear reactors have been thoroughly damaged and will not be effective for quite some number of years.
But Saddam's current weapons, the Scud missiles, are becoming the counterpunch of terror that almost no one predicted. Schwarzkopf says his forces are destroying them, but clearly Saddam has more missile launchers than the U.S. estimates.
We have estimates that say that we may have killed as many as 16 of those mobile launchers, but it's very, very difficult to confirm that kind of targeting. So they're still there, and we're still spending a great deal of time to make sure that they can't fire them.
While the air war is expected to continue for at least another week, U.S. troops, tens of thousands of them, move closer to the Kuwaiti border, poised for a ground attack. But before a great and bloody land battle, U.S. forces are trying to talk the Iraqis into surrendering. And today, Pentagon sources confirmed that the USS Forrestal, a Jacksonville, Florida-based aircraft carrier, will soon head to the Middle East. While 6 other carriers help bombard Iraq, the Forrestal's mission, according to sources, will be to patrol a few hundred miles off Israel's coast to keep an eye on Libya. One administration concern is that Libya might attack Israel and in that way try to break apart the coalition. The Forrestal could be in the way of that attack. Tom?
Fred, what kind of capacity does Libya have to attack Israel from those distances?
Well, Tom, they have 6 long-range bombers that they got from the Soviet Union about 18 months ago. They could reach Israel, but virtually every military expert I've spoken to said that it would be a one-way trip.
All right. Thank you very much, Fred Francis of the Pentagon. Late word now from American military spokesman in Riyadh, Saudi Arabia. At least 6 Iraqi Scud missiles fired at the Saudi capital. None reached the ground, all destroyed by American anti-missile missiles called the Patriot, coming to be a very familiar weapon in this war. That's the late word now from Riyadh, Saudi Arabia. Iraq today broadcast interviews with 7 men it identified as captured Allied airmen. 3 of them were said to be Americans. Here is what one had to say in what sounded like a coerced statement.
My name is Lieutenant Jeffrey Norton Zahn. My mission was to attack H-3 airfield in southwestern Iraq. I think our leaders and our people have wrongly attacked the peaceful people of Iraq.
Until late today, NBC's Tom Aspel was in the middle of this war. He and other foreign reporters were ordered out of Iraq by that government. They crossed into Jordan just a few hours ago, and Tom joins us tonight from Amman. Tom, let me say, first of all, it's very good to see you in person again.
Thank you, Tom. Tom, this is the first high-tech war we have ever seen close up. We don't know how it's being directed, but we know it works. The attacks on Baghdad are systematically destroying military headquarters buildings, communication centers, and places where the Iraqi command may be operating from.
The old Parliament building downtown. 2 missiles out of nowhere. Those 2 beat the sirens, or maybe this is the warning for another raid. Iraqis have a primitive tactic. Push as much fire up into the air as they can. Hope that the missile will run into it. They are delicate enough to knock down with just 1 cannon round.
This is our vantage point during these attacks on the central downtown Baghdad. 6 floors up in the Al Rashid Hotel. We stayed quiet here because Iraqi security and our minders are forever trying to hustle us downstairs into the shelter. We can't hear anything down there, and we certainly can't see anything.
That was an incoming cruise missile. It came down 100 yards from us and landed on the hotel employees' housing compound. Strange to think that there's a ship sitting hundreds of miles away launching these things. If they avoid the ground fire, and nearly all of them do, they're accurate to within a few feet.
As far as we know, every attack on the downtown area has been from those missiles. Only in one case did we hear of civilian casualties, some old houses which fell down from the force of the blast when a communications tower nearby took a direct hit. Tom?
Thank you, Tom Aspel, tonight, now out of Baghdad in Amman, Jordan. And when this special edition of Nightly News continues, we'll get the latest from Israel.
If for years you've been itching to get relief from the discomfort of a dry nose, here's Here's some good news. Nasal. It's not a decongestant. Nasal's a gentle moisturizing spray that soothes away dryness. So gentle that you can use Nasal as often as you like. So the next time your dry nose needs soothing relief, try Nasal moisturizing spray. It's what every dry nose has been itching for.
Did you hear? Kraft Touch of Butter spread now comes in sticks, so your baking and cooking can have that genuine buttery taste. New Kraft Touch of Butter sticks are made with creamy butter. A touch of real butter makes a real difference.
Surprise! Quaker Oat Squares. You're gonna love them from square one. Love that crunch.
Love the toasty taste. Love the touch of brown sugar. Surprise!
Quaker Oat Squares. You're gonna love them from square one.
Today's missile attacks on Saudi Arabia reminded Israel that it is still vulnerable. It has been more than 18 hours now since Tel Aviv was last hit. Israel promised retaliation, but so far it has held its fire. And as NBC's Keith Miller in Tel Aviv tells us tonight, Israel's restraint has been rewarded with some considerable help from the United States. Keith?
Tom, the Patriot anti-missile system is now in place to defend Israel against attack, and its deployment signals a new level of cooperation between the U.S. and Israel.
The missiles could be seen this morning being transported along a highway outside Tel Aviv. 2 batteries of the anti-missile system arrived overnight from Europe in the largest military airlift to Israel since the 1973 war. American soldiers, for the first time, have now taken up positions in Israel to defend the Jewish state. At a cabinet session in Jerusalem, government officials welcomed American assistance, but maintained the right to retaliate.
I think we've got to act. I think that Israel can't just sit still. And I think that all our friends and allies, including the United States, ought to understand it.
Keeping Israel out of the war is the task of U.S. Deputy Secretary of State Lawrence Eagleburger. He met today with Prime Minister Yitzhak Shamir. But on Israeli television tonight, the Prime Minister reiterated Israel's intention to protect itself aggressively. In Tel Aviv, many people appeared to accept the threat of further attacks.
I'm not at all sure that it's over. But that doesn't mean that I don't sleep well. As long as they let me.
Grocery stores restocked bread, milk, and other products, but there was no sign of panic buying.
The performance of the Patriot anti-missile system in Saudi Arabia tonight did not go unnoticed here in Israel. Still, there is a fear here that the next attack in this country could be a chemical weapon attack. Tom?
Thank you, Keith Miller in Tel Aviv tonight. I'll be back in a moment with some chilling news about Saddam Hussein's American weapons connection.
My grandfather loved the unknown. I want a sure thing. I drive a new kind of Oldsmobile, the all-new Bravada, perfect for this jungle because it's got Smart Trap, a new anti-lock braking and all-wheel drive system that automatically sends power to the wheel that needs it. So I'm ready for the unexpected, whether I'm traveling across the river and into the trees.
This is the new generation.
Or just visiting your old man in the sea.
Bravada, engineered for the unexpected.
It happens while you sleep.
A kiss? Not yet, honey.
Millions of bacteria form in your mouth.
A kiss? No.
So you wake up with the worst breath of the day, morning breath.
Oh, honey.
Fight morning breath with Scope. Antiseptic Scope has 2 powerful ingredients that kill 90% of the bacteria that cause morning breath.
How about that kiss?
Where's my kiss?
Kiss me, you big lug.
Scope, original mint or peppermint. The best thing, first thing in the morning.
Sinus pain, sinus pressure, it really hurts. Sinutab combines Tylenol's painkiller with Sudafed's decongestant to work better than either one alone. It stops the pain. Sinutab stops sinus pain.
When life's little irritations are everywhere you turn, more people turn to Visine. When eyes need it most, it's the most trusted name for relief. Visine gets the red out and a whole lot more.
As efforts to destroy Saddam Hussein's war machine continue tonight, questions have been raised about how he managed to assemble this arsenal in the first place. NBC's Brian Ross is with me now, and he has some disturbing answers to that. Brian?
Some authorities say there are now more than 40 criminal cases involving arms dealer and businessmen in this country.
suspected of smuggling American weapons and military technology to Saddam Hussein. And in the last few days, American agents have turned up their heat in the investigations. Thursday night, at the same time that Iraqi missiles were hitting Tel Aviv, federal agents in Miami were raiding an office in this building in an intensified effort to dismantle a huge Iraqi weapons smuggling network in this country. These pictures of the raid, carried out in great secrecy, were made by an expose camera crew. In this raid, initiated by the Pentagon and carried out by U.S. Customs, agents seized file cabinets and boxes full of documents, looking for evidence of stolen and smuggled American military technology shipped to the Iraqis as recently as last month. This week's raid in Miami is part of an investigation of the man shown here with Saddam Hussein, Carlos Cardón, a Chilean who has lived for years in Miami, considered by American authorities to be Hussein's most important supplier of stolen American military technology. Of the hundreds of millions of dollars worth of arms that Cardón has sold to Iraq, authorities say few have been more important to Saddam Hussein than this tiny device called an impeller, about the size of a nickel, developed by the U.S. military. The impeller is an ingenious device that increases the killing power of artillery shells and bombs by enabling them to explode just over the heads of enemy troops. American military officials say it was Cardón who gave Iraq the technology to mass-produce the impeller for tens of thousands of shells. Tom, Pentagon officials say among the very first bombing raids carried out by American pilots in Iraq were attacks on the two arms factories just north of Baghdad that Cardón had set up using stolen American military technology to mass-produce weapons for Iraq. Officials told NBC News both factories were destroyed.
And Brian, did this connection between Iraq and the United States go on right up to the brink of war, and are investigations continuing?
Investigations are continuing. A grand jury will convene Tuesday in Miami to look into this and other cases. But we were told by American intelligence that as of the day of the attack, American businessmen were receiving faxes, weapons orders, sent in by Iraqi agents in Europe.
Thank you very much, Brian Ross, tonight. By the way, we'll have more on this exclusive story later tonight on Expose here on NBC. And when we return, the war through the eyes of Jewish and Arab Americans.
The way Whirlpool builds appliances, they must know my son Ernie. They must know what he does to his clothes, what he does to the refrigerator door, how messy he can be. The people at Whirlpool must know Ernie. That's why they build appliances the way they do. Appliances that work hard, that last. Appliances that I can count on. Mom! The way Ernie counts on me.
I'm home.
You know, doing the right thing is sometimes a matter of not doing the wrong thing. Ask your own doctor. I think he'll tell you. Filling up every morning on bacon and eggs, eating a lot of fat, is wrong. Quaker oatmeal is right. See, oatmeal is low in fat and very high in nourishment. People have been trying for over 100 years to make a better breakfast, and nobody's done it yet. Quaker Oats. It's the right thing to do.
Along with the glaciers, a string quartet. There are eagles and old world antiques. Midnight Sun, Rosenthal china, the finest service, and the spouting of whales. Surely there is no land on earth more magnificent and wild than Alaska, and no way more civilized to see it than aboard the ships of Holland America, the world's best cruise line.
Flu outbreak in 29 states, and it's spreading fast. What can you do? Doctors recommend Theraflu, hot liquid medicine that works fast. Theraflu, strong therapy for flu symptoms.
How do I know where to get my brakes done right?
Come to Midas. You get a lot of value for the price, plus peace of mind, knowing the job will be done right. That's why more people come to us for brakes, knowing that nobody beats Midas. Nobody.
Once again, Israel is threatened, and once again, American Jews are feeling that threat from a distance. Here's NBC's national correspondent, Bob Kerr.
As joyous daughters greeted their father just back from Israel today, emotional, historic ties were apparent.
I felt privileged to be in Jerusalem with my brothers and sisters.
For the moment, long-standing arguments and doubts among American Jews over some Israeli government policies seem unimportant.
Just proud to be an American Jew and be there with those people.
All over the country, Jews are coming together with a sense of urgency about what's happening in Israel.
It reminds me of the 1967 war, the Six-Day War. Tremendous sense of connection and concern.
At the United Nations today, thousands rallied in support of Israel.
Would you be in a position to give $150 this year?
In Chicago, an emergency call to raise money for Israel. In Albuquerque, a special prayer service.
We pray for the peace of Israel, for Israel's sake and for our own sake as well.
And in a Hebrew school class this morning, Israel was no longer just a textbook or biblical abstraction.
It's just horrible to see, like, babies and, like, wearing their gas masks.
Me as a Jew watching it on TV and, like, my classmates just watching, like, the Israelis suffer, it's like, it's really hard to watch that.
There is increased security at many synagogues. And this little girl's parents have been notified that until the war is over, she and her classmates won't be allowed to play outside their Jewish preschool.
I don't really think they're going overboard. I think they're trying to be safe.
As they gather to express solidarity with Israel, many Jews want the country to defend itself. They understand why restraint may be necessary, but they're not comfortable with it.
I don't want to hear again why didn't they stand up for themselves? Why did they go so peacefully into the gas chambers? And I think this is our way of saying right now we will not do, never again, we won't do that.
Bob Kerr, NBC News, Fairfax, Virginia.
This is a fearful time as well for Arab Americans, and NBC's Lucky Severson tonight looks at their concerns.
There are upwards of 250,000 Arab Americans living in the Detroit area, the largest settlement in the U.S. Nearly 60,000 are Iraqis, like John Lucia.
Just go down this way on the left-hand side.
When the war started, the bombing of Baghdad couldn't have been closer to home.
It was the most powerful emotion I've ever felt.
There are families living here who have one son fighting for the U.S. and another son fighting for Saddam Hussein. Whoever wins this war, they lose.
My loyalties are with the United States, but I also care about what happens to the people of Iraq.
They live in fear of what will happen when the body bags start coming home, what will happen if there's a terrorist attack.
Be honest with you, I'm scared.
Osama Sablani is the publisher of the largest Arab American newspaper in the U.S.
I think Arab Americans are afraid, they're fearful of what's happening right now.
Even though you're a good citizen, people question their loyalty, and in the past few days, this question kept coming up almost every few minutes.
Terry Awal is a Palestinian and an executive assistant in county government in a place where some people suspect her loyalty.
Come here. Who's this? Who's this?
Maybe they should visit her family. Her sister is on her way to the Gulf to join her husband, who is also in the Marines. Terry and her mom and dad are tending their 2 children.
Here, you want pizza? No.
The FBI just prosecuted a man for sending Terry Awal hate mail simply because she's an Arab.
This is the kind of backlash that we have expected. Just because they happen to be an Arab, then they're targeted.
Friday at the Dearborn Mosque, they are praying for peace in Baghdad and at home. Lucky Severson, NBC News, Detroit.
Another continuing crisis tonight, the crackdown in the Soviet Union. Officials in Latvia report Soviet troops have taken over the interior ministry of that republic after a fierce gun battle with Latvian police. At least 4 civilians were reported killed.
Mary Brody won't feel the tiny lump in her breast for another 2 years, but she'll discover it tomorrow after her first mammogram, thanks in part to a new X-ray film created by DuPont that makes it safer to start mammography early. And for Mary, early detection means a 2-year head start on the rest of her life. At DuPont, 'Pont, 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 'Pont,
was a night for amore. Amore music. Amore romance. But when they brought the grated topping, I said, no more. See? Some grated toppings are only 2/3 cheese and 1/3 fats and fillers. But Kraft is 100% grated Parmesan cheese. Now that's amore like it. Kraft 100% grated Parmesan for 100% great Parmesan taste. Mmm.
You know, Dad always said, Norman, you have to give 100% every day.
If you want 100% whole grain, only one of these leading cereals has it. Only Wheaties is made with 100% whole grain.
Dad also said, Norman, if you want to be a champion,
better get your whole grain.
Better eat your Wheaties. But you better never call me Norman.
Look at me. Enjoying corn on the cob thanks to Super Polygrip.
Super Polygrip forms a seal that holds so tight, many denture wearers can enjoy more of their favorite foods.
Even corn on the cob.
Super Polygrip.
Here at home, whatever our views on this war, we were as one in wanting it over as swiftly as possible. And as war raged on this Christian Sabbath, people of all faiths looked to their places of worship for comfort and guidance. NBC's Keith Morrison.
On this first Sunday of the war, Americans had much to pray for. All around the country they came in search of comfort. They found it in places like Oceanside, California, in non-denominational Calvary Church near Camp Pendleton, where relatives of soldiers were touched all round by hands and prayers, and by a Vietnam veteran minister who understands their pain so well.
For me, in it was not as bad as it was for my relatives who were at home, not knowing.
And where the people looked for wisdom, they found their priests and ministers searching too, because, as the Reverend John Buchanan said in Chicago,
what happened last week wasn't supposed to happen.
But it did, and today the churches were struggling. At the staunchly pacifist Riverside Church in New York, counselors agreed to make their church a sanctuary for conscientious objectors. At a synagogue in Phoenix, though the Jewish Sabbath has passed, children gathered to listen about Israel, her safety, their fears. At the West Oakey Baptist Church in Las Vegas, they sang the Star-Spangled Banner and wished the troops Godspeed. And this in Pasadena at an Episcopal church from which anti-war demonstrations have been spawned.
War corrodes the soul, so can't we just stop?
In many of America's churches, there was agony of the spirit today, and this from a priest in Chicago.
My suspicion is that God does not take sides between his children.
Keith Morrison, NBC News, Los Angeles.
That is Nightly News up to the minute on this Sunday night. I'll be back with a special report on America at war. Where are we now? What next? I'm Tom Brokaw.
America's at war, and NBC presents an important hour-long special, What's Ahead?
Then, women at war, concern on the home front. How do Americans feel about women in harm's way on Real Life with Jane Pauley?
And could Iraq have bought arms from the U.S.? A shocking expose with Tom Brokaw. Stay tuned to NBC tonight. The showdown.
The holidays may